Hello everybody, my name's Glenn Mickey and I'm the owner and manager of Glenn's Driving School here in Edmonton in Alberta, Canada. Today I want to talk to you about driver education in the province of Alberta and discuss the question of whether it's really worth it to take driver's education. In Alberta we have an insurance system that gives you a discount for taking driver's education, and how it works is you get credit for 2 years driving experience when you first get your license and insure your vehicle. So if you were to get your license and insure your vehicle right off the bat, you would be getting the same rates as somebody who's been driving claims-free for 2 years and didn't have any at-fault claims and did not take driver education. So what does that save you? Well, if you live in the Edmonton Territory, and I'll explain what I mean by that in a minute, but the Edmonton Territory or the City of Calgary, you will save just a little over $350 based on current insurance rates. If you live outside of those areas in the province of Alberta, what you'll be saving is just a little over $280. So of course driver education costs a lot more than that, so obviously you need to be getting more than that for it to be worthwhile to take driver training. So how we really save you many times over is if we can help you avoid having an at-fault claim. The way the insurance system works in the province of Alberta, it works on a grid. You start off in the middle. If you take driver's ed, you start 2 steps down, you stay there for 2 years, and then after that you continue to go down the grid as long as you don't have any at-fault claims. And other than that, every year you go without an at-fault claim, you go 1 step down the grid and your insurance premiums are less. However, if you have an at-fault claim, every time you do, you go 5 steps up the grid. And of course you'll be paying a whole lot more in insurance premiums. So how it works, by virtue of that system, if you have an at-fault claim early in your driving career, it will cost you a whole lot more in insurance premiums than if you have one, say, 10 or 15 years after you start driving. But when are you most likely to have an at-fault claim? Well, probably when you first start driving, you have less experience and you're more likely to make a mistake. So if we can help you avoid having that at-fault claim, it's going to pay for itself many times over. And it should be mentioned that at-fault claims, it's not just about money. If you're involved in a collision, you could be killed, somebody else could be killed, or you could be seriously injured, or somebody else could be seriously injured. So there's more than just money at stake here, and obviously you want to go your whole life and never have an at-fault claim. But we're just explaining to you here the financial end of it if you are involved in an at-fault claim. And the scenario we're going to give you is somebody who has an at-fault claim in their first year of driving and how much extra that is going to cost them. So before I do that though, I want to explain the assumptions that we make in arriving at these figures. The first assumption is that you are living in the Edmonton Territory or the City of Calgary, because insurance rates are more if that is the case. And I'll explain now what I mean by Edmonton Territory. That of course includes the City of Edmonton, as well as the City of St. Albert, Sherwood Park, Lancaster Park, Namao, and Winterburn and Clover Bar. So if you live in any of those areas, you're considered to be living in the Edmonton Territory, even though you may not be living actually within the City of Edmonton. The second assumption that we make is that you will be carrying $1 million PL and PD, and that's the mandatory coverage that you're required to carry. It stands for public liability and property damage, and you're required to carry that. You can carry more coverage than that, but $1 million is what most people go with, and that means if you're sued, your insurance company will cover you up to $1 million. If the lawsuit were to go higher than that, the extra cost would be your responsibility. But like I said, that's what most people go with. That's the most common rate, so that's what we will use for these calculations. Also, we're going to make the assumption that insurance rates are going to remain constant, which is probably not a fair assumption, not a correct assumption, But that is what we're going to use, because otherwise we're just playing a guessing game. And when insurance rates do go up, all it means is, if anything, the figures we're going to give you are going to be even a little bit higher. Also, we're going to assume that this person did not take driver education, because that's the whole point. The person didn't think it was worth taking driver's ed. They have an at-fault claim in their first year. How much is it going to cost them? Also, we're making the assumption that the insurance company is charging you the maximum that they are permitted to do under the grid system. And if you have an at-fault claim right off the bat, that is probably a fair assumption, because obviously they don't have a lot of history with you. You've had an at-fault claim right away, and they might be wondering when you're going to have the next one. So again, they might be considering you to be kind of a high risk. However, as time goes along, it may vary from company to company, but if you haven't had any other at-fault claims, they might start giving you a break and charging you less than what they have to, or what they're allowed to charge you under the grid system. But again, we don't want to get into a guessing game, so we're going to assume that they're going to charge the maximum. And finally, we are going to assume that this person did not have any other at-fault claims, and that they did not receive a ticket that would result in a surcharge on their insurance as a result of their at-fault claim, or a ticket resulting in a surcharge in any other circumstance. For example, if somebody's charged with careless driving, they have a 25% surcharge tacked onto their insurance premium for a period of 3 years. So that would make the situation even worse. But we're assuming that did not happen, because we could be here all day discussing different possibilities and different scenarios. And you'll see here that it's going to be bad enough just the way it is. So somebody has an at-fault claim in their first year of driving. The next year, they will be paying more than $1,000 extra in insurance premiums as compared to what they would have paid if they had not had that at-fault claim. Over the next 5 years from the time they had the claim, they will pay more than an extra $4,000 in insurance premiums. And over a 15-year period, they will pay more than $8,000 extra in insurance premiums as compared to what they would have paid had they not had that at-fault claim. Again, keeping in mind the assumptions that we talked about here. So, and that's not the total cost either, because if you're involved in an at-fault claim, there's a pretty good chance there's going to be damage to your vehicle as well. And if you do not have collision coverage, then the cost of repairing your vehicle or replacing your vehicle, depending on the circumstances, will be totally your responsibility. Now, if you carry collision coverage, there's a chance your premiums for that coverage will increase as well as a result of the at-fault claim. But you also will be looking at a deductible. It may vary from company to company, but $500 is not uncommon. And so what that means is that if there's damage to your vehicle, you pay the first $500 and the insurance company will pay the rest. So if, for example, there was $5,000 damage to your vehicle, you would pay $500 and your insurance company would be paying the $4,500. So as you can see, having an at-fault claim early in your driving career can be very expensive. So the next question is, how is Glenn's driving school going to help me so that I'll be a safer driver and less likely to be involved in one of these at-fault claims? Well, on your first lesson in the in-car, we'll drive you out to a quiet residential area. We start you off gradually. We realize you're going to be a little bit nervous on your first lesson, especially if you haven't driven much. Also, you're driving a vehicle that you haven't driven before with somebody you probably haven't met before, and all those factors can make you kind of nervous, and we understand that, and we want to make it as less stressful as possible. But, and also we don't want to put you in heavy traffic right away, because we want to see where your driving skills are at. Work you into gradually start with the basics and work from there. But even in those residential areas, we're going to work with you to make you a safer driver. We're going to make sure you're doing your shoulder checks, mirror checks when you're pulling in and out from the curb. Most times there won't be anybody coming, but all it takes is once in 30 years have a bicycle going past you, you don't see it, or another vehicle for that matter, and you're involved in a collision. If it happens once in 30 years, for example, that's once too often. But there's more even in the early lessons in the residential areas. There's different types of intersections, and you have to be able to discriminate between them, or it could be a very unsafe situation. You're going to have intersections that are called cross-traffic controlled, which means the other traffic has a stop sign or a yield sign. And you're going to have intersections where you have the stop sign or yield sign, as well as uncontrolled intersections where there is no signs at all, and you need to be able to notice the difference between these. And you'd be surprised how many students on a first lesson will miss seeing a yield sign because they've gone through a few intersections where the other traffic had the signs, and now they aren't scanning anymore and they're just assuming that they have the right of way. But an experience like that is very valuable because now the person realizes they need to be watching. We use the brakes so they weren't involved in a collision, and they learn from that at no extra cost as to opposed to being involved in a collision and learning, okay, I've got to be more careful. But again, as we've just discussed, that's a very expensive way to learn. Now also, as we progress in your in-car lessons, we're going to teach you how to park. Some people don't think parking is very important, but we don't share that view at Glen's Driving School. We're going to work on parallel parking, we're going to work on hill parking, as well as the perpendicular parking in the parking lot. And that's very important, the perpendicular parking in the parking lot, as well as the other parks as well. But in the parking lot, you need to be able to get in and out of a situation where you're between vehicles. You might say, well, I'll just park away from everybody, but what are you going to do if when you come out, some people have parked beside you, now you need to get out. And we're not just going to have you park in an isolated part of the parking lot and assume that if you were beside a vehicle you would show good judgment, because from my experience that's not a safe assumption. There's been numerous times that I've had to prevent a student from bumping into a parked vehicle. But they learn from that, and as a result, hopefully when they're out there driving, they won't be bumping a parked vehicle. And because that can be expensive as well. If you bump a parked vehicle, say in your first year of driving or in first year or two, obviously that's going to get very expensive if you run it through the insurance, because that will be considered to be an at-fault claim. However, paying the person out to repair the vehicle isn't always that cheap either. Not too long ago somebody backed into one of our training cars, and they obviously wanted us to find the cheapest quote we could to get the vehicle repaired, and we were fine with that. We didn't want to make their experience any more unpleasant than it needed to be. But after getting 4 quotes, the cheapest quote was still over $1,000. So if we save you a situation like that, you've pretty much paid for your driver's ed right there. And in addition to that, in the parking lot, if a student has problems with getting the pedals mixed up, hitting the gas instead of the brake, it's better to get that straightened out when you have somebody with you who has a dual brake as opposed to somebody who doesn't, or being all by yourself. You could hit a parked vehicle, or worse yet, if there's people walking in front of you or standing in front of you and you hit the wrong pedal, it could be even far more serious than that. But there's even more ways we can help you. Once we feel that you're ready, we will work you into heavy traffic. Usually that's not before the 4th lesson, or it may be even later on. If we don't feel you're ready, we're not going to rush you into it. But when you get into heavy traffic, we're not just going to drive down a busy road in a long straight line. We're going to have you doing numerous lane changes, numerous left turns, so that you develop the skills that you need so when you're out there driving by yourself, you can handle the situation. Lane changing, we're going to have you checking your mirrors, shoulder checking, make sure it's safe. So not only do you see the vehicles, but you make a good decision on whether it's safe to make the lane change. Is the vehicle far enough back? Is it approaching quickly? Is it too close? Those are decisions you're going to have to make, and we're going to help you by having you do those numerous lane changes. Left turns. Again, a lot of collisions happen on left turns, and we'll have you turning left from stop signs where you have to make sure that it's safe to your left, to your right, and also make sure that there isn't another vehicle coming across from the other side of the intersection who you'll be turning left in front of. So that really works your skills as well. And also, when you're turning left at traffic lights, hopefully you won't have anyone coming from your left or your right, because they will be running a red light if that's the case, but that can happen, so you want to be on the lookout for that. But also, obviously, on a left turn, you have to make sure that you have a sufficient gap to make the turn safely. Also, you're going to need to check the crosswalk to your left to make sure there isn't any pedestrians crossing there. And also, you need to be glancing at the traffic light frequently to make sure it doesn't change, because if it changes, you're going to have to make sure that there isn't anyone that's going to run the light. But after you're satisfied of that, you're going to need to complete your left turn safely, because if you don't and you're just sitting in the intersection, you didn't notice the light changed, what's going to happen is traffic to your right is going to start proceeding through the intersection on their green light. Traffic to your left is going to want to proceed, but you're going to be blocking them, and they're not going to be very happy with you, and you're going to be in kind of a stressful situation. So we have you do numerous left turns, and that's going to help you again when you're out there driving on your own. Now, in the classroom, we also try to give you full value for your money as well. And we follow the government design curriculum, and it is a very good curriculum. But there is some things we add to it as well to make it even better. We cover some extra things on winter driving, which is very important here in Edmonton. Obviously, we live in a winter city, so it's important that you have the information you need, so when you come across the situations that you're sure to encounter, you have the information and learn the things that you need so you can handle those situations. Also, we have a quiz that we've designed for the start of the course, and it just helps you find out what you know regarding various traffic laws in the province of Alberta. And a lot of it's covered in the curriculum anyway, but it helps reinforce it. And we've gone through and added up all the fines that you could receive if you were to get a ticket for every traffic infraction on that quiz. And it comes to over $5,000 worth of fines, not to mention the demerit points you would get. Now, I realize it's not likely that you would be getting a ticket for every last infraction on that quiz, but even if we save you one or two tickets, that's going to help pay for your course. And I should mention that there is a question on there where if you were unaware and were in violation of that law unknowingly, and you got a ticket for it, the minimum fine is nearly $3,000, and it's not uncommon for people to get that question wrong on the first day of classroom. So if that's all we did for you is save you receiving that fine, that would pay for the driver's ed right there. So I think you can see that driver's ed certainly does pay for itself in many ways. And if you have any questions, be sure to contact us. If you live in the Edmonton area, we would love to give you the quality driver education which we've given to so many people over the years. You should know we've won the Consumer's Choice Award since 2010 as Edmonton's top driving school. And that's a very high compliment, and recently Consumer's Choice Award has changed their procedure. Now they have 2 survey companies working on their surveys, and then they combine the results to see who the winner is. So that's really nice. It's also really nice when somebody comes to us and says, my insurance company referred me to you, because obviously an insurance company does not want their clients having at-fault claims, and obviously they feel that we're doing a good job, otherwise they wouldn't be referring people to us. And also, we're really pleased when we hear that a driver examiner has referred somebody to us. Just recently, a gentleman contacted us, and he was planning on taking his daughter to a different driving school, but he talked to a driver examiner at a registry, and the driver examiner suggested it would be better that his daughter come here to Glens. So that's a really high compliment as well, because driver examiners test a lot of different people from different driving schools, as well as people who didn't take driver education. And so if they say that they should come to our school, obviously they've seen the difference in the road tests that they've conducted with students who've gone through our program. So if you'd like to contact us, we have our contact information here. As you can see, our address is 307-9006 132nd Avenue in Edmonton, Alberta, if you want to drop in, or if you want to give us a call. The phone number is 780-478-1777, and our regular office hours are 10 till 2, 3 till 6, Monday through Friday. And you can also contact us by email, glensdrivingschool@gmail.com, and you also might want to check out our website, glensdrivingschool.ca, and you can contact us through the website as well. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you found it beneficial and informative, and have yourself a wonderful day.